Well, as we talk about July 4th, not to say that Sean Diddy Combs won't have something to celebrate tomorrow, more than a lot of people, maybe even Diddy himself expected. But the fact remains he will spend the 4th of July in the same place he's been every day since he was arrested last September, in the notoriously awful MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. We're going to find out in October how long he'll have to serve for his twin convictions of transportation to engage in prostitution. That is, unless the sentencing hearing is expedited. And we're also going to find out where he's going to spend his time. But we don't have to wait for the nitty-gritty day in and day out details that likely await him wherever he goes. You know why? Because we got Larry Levine. He's here. Larry served 10 years in multiple federal institutions. He now runs Wall Street Prison Consultants, which he founded. Good to see you, Larry. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, great to be back with you.
Wait, you know what? Let's scroll back up. I got your book I want to tell everybody. You got a new book.
Okay.
Prison Politics 101, Mastering the Art of Survival. We got everybody pick it up. Hope everybody can check it out. Okay.
You know what? I sent a copy of that into Diddy.
Today, the world watched as one of the most controversial trials in music history reached its shocking finale. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, legal analysts, supporters, and critics all sat shoulder to shoulder, their eyes locked on the man who once dominated the charts and shaped an entire era of hip-hop culture, Sean Diddy Combs.
Tell everybody, you got a new book.
Okay.
Prison Politics 101, Mastering the Art of Survival. We got everybody pick it up. Hope everybody can check it out. Okay.
You know what? I sent a copy of that into Diddy and Luigi, and they returned it, and they banned it.
For months, the allegations had consumed headlines, claims of sex trafficking, racketeering, and decades of manipulation hidden behind the glitz of platinum records and lavish parties. Prosecutors painted a picture of a mogul who used wealth and fame as a shield to hide predatory behavior. The defense insisted it was all a carefully crafted smear campaign designed to destroy an empire and cash in on sensational lies.
Oh, when you
don't want people to know what's in there. Yeah.
Wow, I thought, it'd be good. You're giving advice about what it's like, which brings me to my question.
I sent it to Brian Kohlberger. They let it in there, but it is what it is.
Well, let's see if he signs it and returns it or keeps it. But I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
If Diddy goes to prison, so if he's sentenced to prison, not time served, A, where do you think he's going to serve his time? Do you think it would not be in the MDC? Would it be somewhere else?
In the final moments before the verdict, the tension in the courtroom was so thick it felt like the air itself was pressing down on everyone. Diddy sat stone-faced, his hands folded in front of him, staring straight ahead. Some reporters noted that he seemed almost detached, as if he'd already made peace with whatever outcome awaited him. Across the aisle, several women who'd accused him of unspeakable crimes wiped away silent tears. Their faces reflected a complex mix of fear, anger, and resignation. For them, this was more than a trial, it was a reckoning, decades in the making. Then the judge nodded to the jury foreperson. The entire room seemed to freeze. Even the soft shuffle of reporters adjusting their notepads stopped. A moment later, the foreperson stood and, in a voice that shook just enough to betray the gravity of the moment, announced, on the charge of sex trafficking, not guilty. A collective gasp erupted. Some observers clutched their chests. Others leaned back, in stunned disbelief. But it wasn't over.
People are coming and going because people are getting charged. People are getting released. You're living in close quarters. You go to a real prison, you're going to be going outside. You may have a job. You're going to be doing things. This place here, it's really a lousy environment. But there's a big question as to where he's going to go. Some people think he's going to go to a minimum security facility, and other people say he's not eligible. And I agree, because it's a sex crime.
Prosecutors, they said in their filing yesterday that it's a crime of violence. We'll see how it goes down when it goes to sentencing. But you
know what? Hold on. I know we don't have a lot of time. Here's something nobody's pointed out. That judge can hit him what's called relevant conduct, where they could actually sentence and enhance him for things that he either was acquitted of, found not guilty of, based on the conduct of what he did. So he may get more time.
Oh, the judge has a lot of discretion here. There's no minimum, max.
On the charge of racketeering, not guilty, a single sob broke the silence from the gallery where supporters of the alleged victim sat. Another spectator was seen covering her mouth, shaking her head over and over. Diddy exhaled, closing his eyes for the briefest instant. For the first time in weeks, his jaw unclenched. His lead attorney reached over, rested a hand on his shoulder, and whispered something no one could hear. Reporters immediately dashed for the exits, eager to blast out the breaking alert to millions. Outside, dozens of cameras were already rolling. As news tickers flashed the words, Diddy cleared on all charges. It was a moment that would spark debate, outrage, relief, and conspiracy theories all at once. In the days leading up to this verdict, the prosecution had called over 30 witnesses to the stand. Some described elaborate recruitment tactics young women allegedly promised fame, only to be pressured into compliance behind closed doors. There were text messages, financial records, and tearful testimonies that made headlines across the world.
Of transportation to engage in prostitution and two victims.
Relevant conduct allows the judge to do that.
Right.
The defense will say he abused his discretion, but he really didn't, because the judge has all the discretion he wants.
That's 100%. That's why he's going to need as much information from a pre-investigation report. Let me ask you this. If he goes to prison, if he's sentenced to prison, he was acquitted of racketeering. He was acquitted of sex trafficking, but he was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution. Does he walk in a king or does he walk in a pariah? How do other inmates look at him if he was acquitted?
You know what? He was acquitted on some charges.
Yeah.
People win. I mean, on multiple counts, people sometimes get things dismissed all the time. Fact is, he's no better than anyone else. He's a convicted felon. But what he's going to face is all these people are going to be sucking up to him because of who he is and thinking that he could do something to further their career. You don't know how many people I met on the inside that all said they started Bad Boy Records, Death Row Records. Everybody started Death Row Records. He'll be treated like a king. He'll be treated like a celebrity. But I don't know if people are going to give him high fives for having sex crimes. I don't see that. It's not a popular crime.
Do you think that he needs security, and what would be the level of security for him?
No.
In there? Any kind of protection?
I think that
One woman, her voice quivering, described a penthouse apartment she called the prison in the sky. She testified that she'd been flown in under the guise of recording a demo, only to realize she was expected to perform for Diddy's business partners at private gatherings. Her testimony sparked outrage, with clips going viral on social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, where millions debated whether these stories could possibly be true. Defense attorneys fired back with equal fervor. They argued that the claims were exaggerated or outright fabrications by opportunists looking for a payout. One defense witness, a former Bad Boy Records executive, insisted that Diddy's private parties were exactly what they looked like on TMZ, but consensual gatherings of celebrities, models, and influencers. No one, he claimed, was ever coerced. Meanwhile, the jury was sequestered for days, poring over piles of evidence and weighing the credibility of witnesses whose stories sometimes clashed. One legal analyst described it as a trial of contradictions, where every piece of evidence seemed to spawn to competing narratives. Outside the courthouse, the mood was electric. Protesters held up signs that read, "Believe survivors," while Diddy's supporters countered with "innocent until proven guilty." The entire block had the air of a festival crossed with a funeral, surreal collision of outrage and celebration, waiting to see which emotion would win.
The level of security for him in there, any kind of protection?
I believe he'll be just fine when he's in there, and he'll have all the African-American gang members hanging out with him, and maybe he'll put money on their books. He's not going to have any problem at all. Nothing. He'll get along just fine. Even the staff will treat him differently. I'm not worried about him. Luigi's a different story.
Interesting. Tomorrow's the holiday, right? July 4th. Inmates, jail, prison, they get anything special on July 4th?
You know what? I was in 11 different federal facilities, and a lot of the ones, they actually did a cook-off where they had barbecues and hamburgers, hot dogs, ribs. Not at every facility, but at some of them. Well, right now, the BOP is out of money. Some of these facilities, they don't even have money for toilet paper. People are going to think I'm lying about this. Some federal facilities are actually tearing up bed sheets. And he's most likely, because the staff, they're going to have a day off tomorrow, probably today, maybe right now. There's people that are putting bag lunches together, maybe some cold cuts with an apple, fruit punch, and some cookies or something. But it's not going to be really a special day. MDC, MCC, all these detention centers, it's like Groundhog Day.
Well, we learned during the trial he likes applesauce in all different kinds of ways.